Hey guys, today I'll show you a horror thriller film named Trap. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins in Philadelphia, where a 12-year-old Riley was an avid fan of popular singer Raven. To fulfill Riley's wish, her father, Cooper, had gone to great lengths to secure 2 concert tickets 2 weeks earlier, choosing the precise time and location to ensure success. Today was the big day of her idol's performance. After passing through the ticket inspection, Riley, accompanied by her father, walked into the hall filled with excitement. However, Cooper noticed something unusual. The entrance they had just passed was now surrounded by multiple police officers, and armed SWAT teams were arriving outside. The surrounding crowd appeared unbothered, assuming the police were just there to maintain concert security. But Cooper felt a growing unease. To make matters worse, he observed that all the exits were now guarded by police. As they entered the auditorium, he noticed that officers were leading people from the back rows away for questioning. Cooper realized the concert venue had become a giant trap. The elaborate police presence left no doubt they were here for someone significant. Cooper felt a sense of relief that his tickets were for seats near the front, where the police were less likely to reach quickly. Feigning calm, he told his daughter that he needed to use the restroom. Once inside a stall, he took out his phone. The muffled sobs and gasps coming from the phone's speaker blended seamlessly with the flushing of the toilet, easing his nerves slightly as he stared at the terrified face of a man on the screen. As he washed his hands, Cooper caught a glimpse of his mother's figure nearby. He immediately dismissed it as a hallucination and brushed it aside. On his way back to his seat, he unexpectedly ran into the mother of a school bully who had been bullying Riley at school. The mother hoped the 2 children could reconcile and move past their conflict. Cooper smiled and agreed outwardly, but upon returning to Riley's side, told her firmly not to engage with them. During the intermission, Cooper took Riley to buy a commemorative T-shirt. However, there was only one left in Riley's size, and another girl also wanted it. Cooper encouraged Riley to give it up to the other child. This selfless gesture impressed the sales clerk, who promised to save a T-shirt for Riley from the next batch arriving in 10 minutes. Taking advantage of the moment, Cooper pulled the clerk aside to ask about the overwhelming police presence outside. With a mysterious expression, the clerk leaned in and whispered, warning Cooper to keep the information confidential. According to the clerk, the FBI had received intelligence that a notorious serial killer, known for dismembering his victims, was attending the concert. To capture him, the authorities had set an elaborate trap, deploying officers to meticulously check every exit. The only unguarded way out was through the backstage area, but it was strictly off-limits to regular attendees. Hearing this, Cooper panicked internally. Now he was certain the police were here for him since he was the exact serial killer. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Cooper devised a plan to escape. He lied to Riley, claiming he wanted to grab a croissant and dragged her around the venue up and down the corridors. At one point, he even knocked over a woman, creating chaos to distract security and search for an opportunity to flee. However, as the clerk had mentioned, every exit was heavily guarded. Escape seemed impossible. Accepting the futility of his attempts, Cooper decided to return to the auditorium with Riley. Meanwhile, Riley found her father's behavior particularly odd. He seemed unusually impulsive. Yet, as the performance resumed, Riley put aside her concerns and focused on the stage. To her delight, Raven invited guest performers, and Cooper's attention shifted to the trap door the guests used to enter. He thought that exit might be a way out, so he suggested to Riley that they sneak backstage to see what it looked like. But Riley gave him a shocked and skeptical look. Realizing he might raise more suspicion, Cooper abandoned the idea for now and watched the trapdoor close. Cooper decided to find out more from the store clerk. He excused himself under the pretense of picking up the reserved T-shirt. Following the clerk to the storage area, Cooper seized an employee access card when the clerk wasn't looking. Inside the storage area, the clerk, unaware of Cooper's true identity, showed him disturbing images from the killer's crime scenes, boasting about how the FBI had orchestrated this elaborate plan to capture the serial killer. The clerk also revealed key details. The staff had rehearsed how to respond when the serial killer was caught, including using a specific code word. Anyone who used it would be recognized as an ally by the police. Cooper, a seasoned killer who had eluded authorities for 7 years, absorbed this information with his trademark composure. Still unsatisfied, Cooper used the stolen card to enter a police lounge, nonchalantly blending in while pretending to make coffee. During this, he swiped a police walkie-talkie. Just as he prepared to eavesdrop on their plans, the school bully's mother called out to him. Insistent on having the children meet, she followed Cooper, nearly drawing the attention of nearby officers. Before tensions could escalate further, a commotion erupted nearby. Cooper saw a man with a similar build to his own resisting arrest, diverting the police's attention and giving him the cover he needed to slip away. Back in the auditorium, Cooper began listening to the police chatter on the walkie-talkie. The profiling expert explained that while the man they had just apprehended was an escapee, he wasn't their primary target. Through psychological profiling, the profiling expert asserted that the serial killer would never panic under pressure. The incident only confirmed that their real suspect was still at large. Further evidence pointed to a man in his 30s with a tattoo on his right arm. Hearing this, Cooper discreetly covered his wrist tattoo with a snap bracelet. Despite his precautions, he knew it was only a matter of time before the police zeroed in on him. When Riley noticed her father leaving his seat again, Cooper explained that he had accidentally left his credit card at the t-shirt stand. This time, he considered pulling the fire alarm to create chaos. However, the profiling expert warned officers over the radio that the serial killer, if cornered, would likely instigate a panic to escape amidst the confusion of 20,000 concertgoers. Police were instructed to allow only women and children to leave in such a scenario. Cooper, realizing his plan was foiled, began to admire the profiling expert's insight, though it also made him increasingly uneasy. Cooper next attempted to escape through the rooftop. Slipping into the kitchen during a power outage, he increased the temperature of the deep fryer and added glass bottles, which exploded moments later. The resulting chaos drew away the officers stationed at the rooftop exit. Donning a staff apron, Cooper reached the rooftop but encountered two SWAT officers. Playing the role of a frightened staff member, he claimed to be taking a breather after the kitchen explosion. The officers, after confirming the code word and his ID badge, allowed him to stay. When questioned further, Cooper skillfully deflected their suspicions and learned that the profiling expert was the renowned profiler responsible for apprehending several serial killers in the past. Cooper returned indoors and saw the clerk, injured in the explosion, convulsing on a stretcher. Amid the anguished cries, he once again saw his mother, silently watching him, gazing into the depths of the darkness lurking within his soul. Cooper steadied himself, brushing off the vision, and everything seemed normal. He then reunited with his daughter in the corridor. Riley, sensing something off about her father, voiced her concern and suggested they just go home and rest. Cooper assured her that he wouldn't leave her side again, and only then did Riley reluctantly relax. Returning to the auditorium, Riley shared her excitement about a planned segment where Raven would choose a lucky fan to join her on stage and visit the backstage area. Cooper saw this as a golden opportunity. If Riley was selected, they could use the backstage exit to escape. Feigning concern for his daughter's health, Cooper approached a staff member, who turned out to be Raven's uncle, and fabricated a story about Riley recovering from leukemia. Touched, Raven's uncle assured Cooper he would arrange for Riley to be chosen. As Cooper waited nervously in his seat, police continued their inspections, moving closer to his location. Just as officers reached their row, Raven's uncle appeared and escorted Cooper and Riley to the backstage area. They received staff badges, bypassing security checks entirely. Cooper reflected on how the crises along the way always seemed to resolve themselves unexpectedly, and for a moment he felt a surge of smugness swaying to the music. However, when he spotted the expert in the distance, his expression grew tense again. The expert's presence served as a stark reminder to Cooper that as long as he remained here, the danger was far from over. After his daughter's performance on stage concluded, Cooper noticed the expert approaching him. Acting quickly, he picked up a fainting audience member and slipped into the medical room. His calm and decisive handling of the person's low blood sugar earned him high praise from the medical staff, who asked if he could stay nearby to assist with any emergencies. This allowed Cooper and his daughter to remain in the area without raising suspicion. Meanwhile, he observed a fan who had climbed onto the stage without permission to request an autograph fell down. Instead of reacting with anger, Raven showed genuine concern and helped the fan up with care. Cooper found this behavior puzzling and difficult to comprehend. The performance finally ended, and Cooper believed he was in the clear. With permission from Raven's assistant, he took his daughter backstage, planning to let Riley say her final goodbyes to Raven before making his escape. However, Cooper noticed a large number of police officers converging on the backstage exit. A sense of dread swept over him. Tuning into the police radio once more, he learned that the authorities were frustrated by their failure to locate the serial killer during the concert, so they had decided not to let the opportunity slip away. They sealed all exits and prepared to individually inspect the 3,000 men present at the venue. Meanwhile, Raven entered the surveillance room to check with the expert about the status of the operation. Upon hearing that the serial killer had not yet been captured, she grew visibly anxious. At that moment, her assistant delivered commemorative merchandise and informed Cooper that security had been further tightened. Now, only Raven and her close acquaintances were exempt from inspections when leaving. However, they reassured them that the police would only ask a few routine questions, so there was no need to worry. On the surface, Cooper maintained a calm demeanor, but his mind raced as he processed the situation. With every potential escape route blocked, it seemed as though he was truly cornered. Spotting Raven nearby, Cooper approached her, again leveraging the leukemia story to request a private conversation. Once alone in her dressing room, Cooper dropped his facade, revealing himself as the serial killer. He showed Raven footage of a man he had locked in a room rigged with a carbon monoxide trap. Cooper threatened to kill the man unless Raven helped him and Riley escape in her car. Overwhelmed, Raven reluctantly agreed. Riley was completely unaware of the negotiation that had just taken place. She only saw it as a stroke of luck, practically jumping with joy. Meanwhile, the profiling expert was intently watching the chaotic and crowded security checkpoints, not daring to blink. Little did she know, the serial killer had already left the venue. The limousine slowly cruised onto the open road, and Cooper couldn't help but smile as he watched the changing scenery outside the window. As long as the car stopped at the next corner, he could get into his own car and drive Riley home. But before Cooper could fully relax, Raven suddenly suggested visiting Riley's home. Riley, thrilled by the idea, nearly jumped out of her seat, while Cooper's face darkened. Just as he thought things were finally settling, Raven threw an unexpected wrench into his plans. Rachel, Cooper's wife, warmly welcomed Raven into their home. The house was filled with an atmosphere of joy and laughter, but away from the other's sight, Cooper and Raven maintained tense expressions. Cooper sternly warned Raven not to act recklessly, threatening that if she revealed his identity as the serial killer to his family, he would kill the man he had held hostage. Raven outwardly complied, but during the gathering, she confided in Rachel. Raven explained that the concert had been part of a police operation to capture the serial killer. 2 weeks earlier, investigators had discovered a ticket receipt at one of the serial killer's hideouts. Raven hinted that her fan base mostly consisted of teenage girls and pointed out that, based on psychological profiling, the serial killer was likely a middle-aged man with a respectable job. How could such a person be one of her fans? Seeing Rachel remain impassive, Raven elaborated further. The serial killer reportedly suffered from obsessive-compulsive tendencies, drove a dark-colored car for practical reasons, and had a strained relationship with his mother, who might have been the first to notice his abnormalities. As Raven's descriptions grew more detailed, Cooper stood and insisted on escorting Raven out. However, Raven had her eyes on the piano in the living room and insisted on playing one last song before leaving. She invited Riley to sit beside her, secretly taking Riley's phone while playing. Meanwhile, Cooper used his own phone to record his daughter's interaction with Raven. When the performance ended, Raven suggested taking a group photo. Since Riley couldn't find her phone, Raven took the opportunity to grab Cooper's phone instead. She snapped a couple of photos and retreated to the bathroom. Cooper, unwilling to reveal his anxiety in front of his family, forced a smile and politely asked Raven to return his phone. However, as the bathroom door remained closed for an extended time, his unease became visibly apparent. Rachel and Riley were puzzled by Cooper's sudden obsession with the phone, while Raven, listening to the commotion outside, knew time was running out. Fighting her fear, she connected to the surveillance system and contacted the man being held hostage. She asked if he could identify his location, but all he remembered was a blue door and a nearby lion statue. Raven immediately started a live broadcast, briefly explaining the situation and calling on her fans to locate the area matching the description. With their help, the man was successfully rescued. Outside the bathroom, the chaos abruptly subsided. Cooper used a master key to open the door, only to find the surveillance footage erased. Furious, he vowed to make Raven pay for what she had done. He grabbed his tools and forced Raven into Rachel's white car. As Raven recalled the expert's psychological profile of Cooper, she adopted the tone of Cooper's mother, coaxing him to put down the knife and be a good person. Struck by the words, Cooper agreed, believing this was the only way to silence the monster inside him. He opened the garage door, only to see his wife and daughter waiting outside. Cooper had always lived a double life, a good husband and father at home and a merciless killer elsewhere. He had worked hard to keep these two worlds separate, ensuring his family would never discover his darkness. In the end, he had no choice but to let Raven go. As he lowered the garage door, he appeared to give up and prepared to surrender. By this time, the police had surrounded the house. Inside, Cooper methodically cleaned the house as if nothing had happened. When night fell, the SWAT team broke through the door, only to discover that Cooper had escaped through a hidden tunnel into a neighbor's poorly guarded house. During his escape, he killed a police officer and once again evaded capture. Elsewhere, Raven was en route to her hotel in a private car. The vehicle stopped on a desolate roadside, and the driver opened the door, pushing her toward the edge of the seat. To her horror, she realized that Cooper, now dressed in a police uniform, had silently replaced the driver. Cooper planned to take Raven to another hideout to exact his revenge, but the traffic in the city center was heavy, forcing the car to stop. Taking advantage of the situation, Raven managed to unlock the window and cry for help. The window closed almost immediately, and the threat of death loomed over her. Desperately, she kept struggling and finally freed herself from the restraints, narrowly escaping. The car was quickly surrounded by police, but Cooper had already slipped away into the crowd. Once again, the serial killer vanished without a trace, leaving the expert frustrated by his uncanny cunning. Determined to catch him, she decided to return to Cooper's home to search for further clues. Rachel seemed unwilling to accept the reality that her husband was a serial killer. She sent the children to her sister's house and stayed home alone, silently shedding tears as she stared at the happy family photos from the past. The expert, seeing her state, refrained from saying much. She simply assured Rachel that the house would be under police watch all night before leaving. Before long, silence filled the house again. Suddenly, a familiar voice behind her startled Rachel. Cooper had somehow returned home, and this time, he was here to settle the score. After his recent escape, Cooper had pieced everything together. How did the police know about the hideout? Why was there a concert ticket receipt at the scene? It was all because of his wife's betrayal. The concert wasn't the real trap. This home was. Seeing Rachel's reaction, Cooper realized she no longer intended to hide the truth. Through this ordeal, Rachel had come to see her husband's ability to lie without hesitation. Coupled with his frequent late nights and the faint scent of hospital-grade disinfectant used for handling corpses, she had grown suspicious. However, she couldn't be certain if Cooper was really a murderer. Not long ago, Rachel had followed Cooper to one of his hideouts. To test her suspicions, she deliberately left evidence there and reported it to the police, claiming it was the serial killer's base, hoping they could uncover her husband's secret. To her horror, Cooper was indeed the serial killer. Cooper, now enraged, couldn't believe his downfall was orchestrated by his own wife. Gripping a kitchen knife, he prepared to kill her. Rachel, suppressing her fear, calmly proposed that they first enjoy the dessert their daughter had made before he took action. Mentioning the children softened Cooper's demeanor, and he agreed. However, after only a few bites, Cooper began to feel dizzy. The cake had been drugged by Rachel. Having been outmaneuvered by Rachel yet again, Cooper's fury surged. He staggered to his feet, gripping the knife, but suddenly he heard his mother's voice in his head. She coaxed him to be a good child and assured him she would help him face the monster within. At that moment, the police arrived, using a taser to subdue Cooper. As Cooper was being led to the police car, he stopped to pick up his daughter's fallen bicycle in the yard. Riley, upon learning her father had been arrested, ran to bid him a tearful farewell. The sound of sirens pierced the night sky, marking the end of the chaos, or so it seemed. Cooper, however, had no intention of being confined. While appearing to adjust the bicycle, he had discreetly removed one of its steel spokes. Now sitting in the back of the transport vehicle, Cooper used the spoke to unlock his handcuffs and the car door. Freedom awaited him just a short distance away. A sinister grin spread across his face. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.